I really enjoyed watching the screener. I loved watching the performance in there. I would like to start off by asking, what role has music played in your life personally?
Music has played a lot for me. I mean, I guess music is kind of like my therapist for, a lot, and it is for a lot of people. But specifically for me, I struggled with a lot of different things, and I've had so many life experiences in the terms that I've lived in so many different places. So music has been the one thing that has remained kind of consistent for me. And I grew up as an only child, so any place, any aspect I could find safe haven in, I grabbed at it, and that was music for me.
So, what were some of your favorite Bollywood jams to listen to when you were growing up?
Just like general Bollywood classics from like Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham and like Dev Das and just classics like that.
They never get old, do they?
Yeah.
And what about music here in America? What are some of the artists that you love listening to right now?
My taste for me has remained pretty much the same for the past couple of years. I love Amy Winehouse, Etta James, and Beyonce. Those are my top three.
You have a bit of Amy Winehouse vibes going on right now with the hair too. I love it. Looks great. So one of the things that I thought was so interesting about the movie is how it depicted Ria and her relationship with her family. That's an immigrant family. And then you see Ria trying to do all of these things. She's trying to be 10 people at once. She's trying to help the family with the restaurant. She's trying to excel at school. She's also trying to follow her passion. Um, is that something that you can relate to? Being a part of an immigrant family, just the way you have to be 10 people at once.
Yeah, definitely. I think I relate to Ria in the sense that I also wanted to do a lot, and I still want to do a lot, and that we're very ambitious and big dreamers. But at the same time, we also want to be a good daughter and a good friend to the people around us. So, yeah, I did struggle with that growing up. It was really easy for me to get overwhelmed because I wanted to do so much, but I also wanted to maintain my responsibilities to family. But I think, like Ria, I've kind of had a growth and evolution in the sense that I've become better at balancing everything.
Do you have any advice to share for other young women out there who are trying to balance their lives the same way?
I think it's specific to every person, but it helps to have a really good support system. And sometimes it can feel like that's out of your control. But if you can find and pinpoint good people to place into your life, grab onto them and make good friends, they help a lot.
Absolutely. One thing that I thought was so interesting, Ria's father, at one point at the parent-teacher conference, when he's talking to her teacher, he says, I don't want you to think that I'm one of those fathers who tries to force my daughter into doing something. She does what she wants, and I support her in what she wants. And that was so interesting because generally what you see with South Asian families, especially South Asian immigrant families, is there's always sort of this path that is seen for you, and then you are asked to walk that path. And those are generally very traditional and safe careers and professions to follow. And then here we see Ria, and she's as she has to overcome all of these barriers to follow her passions, but her barriers aren't necessarily coming from her family. So playing this character for you, what do you think were the main barriers that Ria had to overcome in order to follow her dreams of music?
I think most of the barriers Ria had to overcome were placed on her. Like I said, she had many expectations of being a good daughter and being a good sister and being a good friend. So she kind of felt obligated to put all these people's needs in front of her own. And I think that is what caused most of the conflict because she was now dealing with this new passion and she didn't know when to, whether or not to prioritize her family, friends, needs in front of her own. And I think towards the end of the movie, she kind of realizes it's about balance and it's about making compromises. And, her dad also comes to realize that Ria can't dedicate all of her time to the restaurant and she needs some time for herself. So the end of the movie is just kind of exploring how she finds her passion and also the people around her and herself learn to kind of compromise so she can have her cake and eat it too.
I think that's a struggle that a lot of young people can relate to these
Yeah.
days as well. Just reaching that point in your life where you tell yourself that it's okay for you to make decisions for yourself and what you want and what you think is best for you. So what impact do you want this movie to have on audiences of all ages, from all backgrounds? What impact do you want this movie and this character to have on audiences?
I hope this movie and Ria kind of empowers them to find their passion and take all the time they need. And I hope it gives them reassurance and encouragement to go on that path, especially for young people. Especially for Desi young people, youth is a time of experimentation and exploration. And so early on, we kind of set our career paths. And I think we should be experimenting and exploring a little bit more. So hopefully this movie kind of showcases that and showcases the benefits of doing that and gives them the reassurance that that's, a good path to take and that the sky is the limit in terms of what you can do.
Um, when the casting process was happening for the movie, and you would have gotten a script, you would have seen what the character was like. What did you think of the character?
I loved her. I thought she was so beautiful in the sense that she's this determined, loyal person. And her conflicts, rather than being an identity crisis, are stemming from the expectations she's setting on herself in terms of responsibilities to others versus finding her own passion. So that to me interested me about her the most. And I thought it was her defining characteristic that her own loyalty is kind of almost interfering with her passion. And I thought that was so interesting. And it's also something so many people go through. They set barriers on themselves, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, balancing commitment and balancing work and balancing life.
How did you discover your passions?
I was very lucky to have a super supportive family. I used to do like 30 things when I was little. I did basically anything you can think of, just so I could kind of decide what I liked. And I had a really great support system that allowed for me to do that. I don't think many kids have that luxury. And it's unfortunate because I think, again, like I said, everybody should have the time to explore. But I did like horse riding, I did swimming, I did the most random stuff. And, I finally settled on something that I liked. But I truly just sampled every hobby, every passion I could find, and decided that acting and the performing arts was my place.
You've also done some incredible roles in the past as well, especially being a South Asian actress. There wasn't always a lot of work for people who were South Asian, and now you're seeing these incredible opportunities and these incredible characters that young South Asian people are getting to play. And it's a very exciting time. And as somebody on the other side who's watching all of this, it's wonderful. I also watched Skater Girl recently, which was incredible. I saw American Eat, another short film that Disney Plus did. So what trajectory would you like your career to take from here on out?
I'd like to do a diverse range of roles and hopefully, continue on this path of doing roles that are breaking stereotypes and breaking the barriers in terms of not doing typical roles that would be given to people of color. I'd also like to highlight immigrant stories. I think immigrant stories are so interesting and so vast, and we're such a big part of America that I don't think that there's enough coverage and enough representation on immigrants specifically. I'd also like to do some drama in the future. I'd like to do comedy. I'd like to do action. I would honestly like to do everything. And there's nothing that I'm entirely opposed to. And whatever opportunity comes my way, I'll take it.
Is there a dream role you would have loved to play? The
Um,
sky is the limit.
I'd really like to do something action related in a thriller genre. Thriller is my favorite genre of movies, so I'd love to do something in that. And I grew up doing a lot of movement based activity like dancing and martial arts. I still am a dancer, so something that's really physical and action oriented in a thriller movie would be like my dream.
Speaking of dancing, what was it like being on set when the dance sequences were being filmed?
So much fun. I mean, I never thought, I mean, I personally, I do have dancing in the movie, but I'm going to reference back to Mira Sayal's dancing, but I never thought I'd see the day where there was Bollywood dancing like showed in a positive light and in actual Bollywood dancing, not in like a mocking way, but in an American film. I just had so much fun filming it, and every reaction that was during that scene of Mira Sayal's dancing was genuine. I had so much fun watching it and filming it, and going through rehearsal with them. It was just a blast.
Just watching the movie, you could tell that there must have been a lot of fun going on behind the scenes because everyone just seemed to have a great time making the film. Do you have any other fun stories to share from behind the scenes?
Um, Honestly, that we all just had so much fun, and I did nothing specific. I just remember a lot of laughter and a lot of joy on set, and I think that goes to show how wonderful the people who worked on the film were.
Yeah. I think we're almost out of time, but I always like to end my interviews just with an open-ended question. So, is there anything that I haven't specifically asked you about today that you want to talk about in regards to this film and your part in it?
Um, Nothing specific. I think you almost covered everything. And I don't know, just to say that I hope viewers enjoy the film, and I hope they give it a try. Uh, and it has such wonderful music, and it covers DJing, which is not something that's very represented, especially female DJs. So I hope some people who have never thought they would feel represented, see themselves on screen. I hope people enjoy the music. There's some Bollywood songs in there, so I hope the American audience is open to it and enjoys it. But that's all.
I also think that the movie did a very fun job talking about the Festival of Colors and Holi and kind of introducing that to a whole different audience. What was that like?
It was so much fun. I had such a blast filming it. We also filmed it in kind of a controlled environment, so it was a lot safer, and I wasn't as like powder wasn't thrown into my eyes. It wasn't as aggressive. So I had a lot of fun filming it, and doing it with my friends was amazing. And I remember not all of the background was Indian. So many of the non-Indian people who weren't familiar with Holi were really interested, and they came up to me and asked me questions. So I had fun talking to people about it and just experiencing it again, even though it wasn't the time of Holi. It was just so nice to kind of go through it.
I mean, it's always just such a fun time. Holi is just a fantastic festival, and it has so much significance in South Asian culture and, of course, in Hindu religion as well.
Yes.
There was one question I meant to ask you earlier, but it kind of slipped my mind. But I want you to talk about your reaction when you got the call that you'd be getting the role of Rhea. What went through your mind?
I actually didn't get the call. I was told in the room that I booked it, and which is very, very rare, especially for Disney. So I was told in the room that I booked it. And I remember writing on my resume that I speak Hindi and that I can understand Hindi. And obviously, things are sometimes slightly exaggerated. And while I can understand Hindi fluently, I can't, especially in stressful environments, my brain blanks out because it's not my first language. And I remember Gary Marsh, who is the president of Disney Channel, asked me to leave the room for 2 minutes after I finished my audition. And he asked me to come back in, and he said, repeat after me. And he started saying, you booked the role of Rhea in Hindi. And I was just so stressed out that they had called me in for the second time that I repeated word after word what he said with no idea what he was actually saying. I had no clue what he meant. And then the director realized that I had no clue what was happening. And she was like, you booked the role. You booked the role. So now there's a video somewhere in Disney's corporate of me like dropping my sides and sobbing with like green screen in the background. But it was just a really cute day. And it was very, very weird because that rarely happens.
That sounds like a fantastic story. I would love to see the video. I'm sure everyone would love to see the video too, just because it sounds like an incredible moment. And I just wanted to kind of wrap up the interview by saying I think that the movie is wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing the impact that it will have on a whole new generation of young people, whether they are South Asian or from all backgrounds. And I worked as an actress in South Asia for a while. I did a couple of TV shows, and just seeing how things have evolved now in terms of the roles that are available to young South Asian women and South Asian people in general is just so incredible. And I'm very excited for you to see what happens in your career. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you very much.